Hey guys, this is Dr. Shell here, and this week, when we would normally have chapel either on Tuesday or Wednesday, um, I would be talking about St. Patrick because Tuesday is St. Patrick's Day, March 17th. And a lot of times when we come around to St. Patrick's Day, they do a lot of silly things, and they're kind of fun. The idea that if you don't wear green, someone's going to pinch you, or we have leprechauns and four-leaf clovers and shamrock shakes from McDonald's and those kind of things. Now those are all fun. In fact, I made a little Lego here of the hills of Ireland with a leprechaun there dancing about, and those things are all really fun. There's nothing wrong with that. However, um, it's important to remember that St. Patrick was actually a real person. Actually, we know about a lot about him because he actually wrote a book um, about himself. It's actually one of the very first autobiographies. An autobiography is a story of somebody's life that they wrote themselves. And it's called The Confession of St. Patrick. And he actually records what happened in his life. In that story, he tells us that he was kidnapped as a young boy and taken to Ireland against his will to be a slave. He had to work with pigs, and he was there for years and years. And then when he was a late teen, he prayed and really wanted God to help him. And he made a promise that if God would get him back home, and he was originally from what we know as France today, he said if he could just, God would get him home, that he would commit himself to the ministry. And sure enough, he had a vision, and God told him that this was the day to escape. And so he uh, made his way to the ocean, caught a ship going back to Ireland, and then when he went back to Ireland, he went back to France, where his home was. He committed himself to become a minister, and that's what he did. And then he felt a call to go back to uh, to Ireland. The very people that made him a slave, he felt like he should go back to be with them and to bring them the good news of the gospel. So it's what he did. His people were very unhappy about this idea. So he got in a ship, went back to Ireland and to the Irish people who had not heard the good news of the gospel before. And he tells us all about this in this little book that he wrote called The Confessions of St. Patrick. And at the end of his life, I think, when he was writing this, he was really humble that God used him and those years of being a slave. And that meant that he knew the Irish language, he understood their culture. And so when he went back with the gospel, he could really speak to them well. And people knew that he had been a slave, and they couldn't believe that even though they had treated him so bad, that he wanted to come back and help them. And so that was a really powerful way that he shared his testimony. And in the Confessions of St. Patrick, he describes that he doesn't think that he really is all that special. He said that I was like a stone laying deep in the mud, but the strong one, that's his name he calls God the strong one a lot. The strong one came, and in his mercy, he took me out, and he lifted me up on high and placed me on top of his wall. So Patrick thought of himself as sort of just a rock buried down in the mud, but God reached down and pulled him out of the mud and put him in a special place on the wall. And so while you're at home, and maybe you're thinking, and maybe you're making something green to eat, something fun. At my house, we often have green pancakes on St. Patrick's Day. When my kids were younger, we did that. And then we also green mashed potatoes. I don't know why, we just do. And but I want to read you out of the Gospel of, and actually in the book of Acts. The Gospel of Luke and the book of Acts are actually two halves of the same book. It was one big book that Luke wrote. It was kind of like a sequel, and these, when you put them together, they actually make up more than half the New Testament. Luke wrote 2 books, and they actually make up almost half of the New Testament. Um, but at the very beginning of the book of Acts, we learn what the apostles are up to. And this is before Jesus is taken up into heaven, just as he's leaving, and he has a message for them. And he says to them, "You will receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you, and you will be my witnesses, both in Jerusalem and in Judea and Samaria and to the remotest parts of the earth." Now, you might think, what does Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria have to do with me? I don't live there. I think what Jesus was trying to tell his disciples is that they were going to need to be his missionaries, first right where they were, and then spreading out. So Jerusalem is where they lived, and Judea was like their state, and Samaria was like the next state over, and then all the way out to the ends of the earth. While we are spending a lot of time at home, it's going to be important for us to try to be missionaries right in our own Jerusalem, right in our own home, in our own neighborhood. And we can reach out to people that we know, and we can use social media to sort of connect with other people. And it's going to be really important that we look out for our neighbors and our friends. It may be that some older people in our churches who can't get out or shouldn't get out are going to need some help. Maybe we can our families can go help get their prescriptions for them, get groceries for them, maybe get them some toilet paper. And so we're going to have an opportunity to be missionaries, to spread the good news of the gospel to people by showing them the way in which Christ touches us and makes us want to live for others. In the very end of Patrick's letter, his book about his life, he was saying that he doesn't want people to really think of him as being special. He said, "Do not credit me with what I have done. Anything I have achieved, it was a gift from God. This is my confession before I die." So Patrick said, if there's anything I've done that's important, don't give me the credit. It really belongs to God, because it was a gift. Everything I was able to do was a gift from God. So I'm sorry we can't be together in chapel. It's kind of sad not to get to see all your faces. But I want you to know that I'm praying for you and your family. I want you to pray for me and my family. Issue you a Lego challenge. As you see these 2 Lego builds, this Lego build I did of Ireland, I want to challenge you to make something out of green Lego. Do you have any Lego? Dig them up. See if you can make something creative out of green Lego. You may not have this many green Legos, but dig out some, mix them up, see if you can make something fun and creative out of it. And then what I want you to do is I want you to email it to me. So I'm mshell@caschools.us. Like all the teachers have that same pattern. So I am mshell@caschools.us. And I want you to send me a picture of any Lego you can build. Oh, anything you want. But if you can make something green, that's a bonus. And then I'm going to take those, I'll post them in my next week's chapel message, or if we get back together soon, I'll put them in a PowerPoint and we'll look at them in chapel together. So, God bless you. I'm praying for you, and you take good care of yourself. Wash your hands. All right, talk to you later. Bye.